This is Stephen Kotler, and you're listening to Your Superior Self.
This is Christina Rasmussen, and this is Your Superior Self.
Hi, this is Dave Meltzer, and this is Your Superior Self.
Hi, I'm Anita Murjani, and this is Your Superior Self.
Hi, this is Paul Selig, and this is Your Superior Self.
What's up, everybody? I'm Aubrey Marcus, and this is Your Superior Self.
What is up, beautiful people? Welcome back. I am Trey Downs, and this is Your Superior Self. Thank you guys for hanging out with me today. Spring is here. That's all I can say. Spring is here in all of its glory. Allergies and everything. I love spring. It is a rebirth. It's a clean slate. It is Mother Nature coming back and showing her beauty all around us. I love it. Today is going to be an electric episode. And I have to say that because I have Eileen Day McKusick on the show. She is, she is a pioneer. She's the inventor of the method of Biofield tuning. And she has been doing this, I think since 1996. She has over 2,000 students trained worldwide since 2010. And as the founder of the Biofield Tuning method, she established the Institute, so Biofield Tuning Institute, which conducts grant-funded, IRB-approved, and peer-reviewed studies on the human biofield, which is legit. That is legit. That is exactly what you need to get that type of work done. And she's also the author of the award-winning bestselling book, Tuning the Human Biofield, Healing and Vibrational Sound Therapy. And her new book, Electric Body, Electric Health, is out, and it is very fascinating. I was able to read through it, and it's such an amazing book, an amazing read. It's an amazing modality to tune into your body and help heal you in ways that you never even thought were possible. You should definitely check her out. Go to biofieldtuning.com, read up on the research, read up on the field of biofield tuning, and all of it's so simplistic. It is so simplistic, but it is effective and it works. And she has such experience in this, and her story is amazing. I can't wait to share that with you. Here's a little piece of that.
And with my tuning forks, I go in and I explore different parts of the anatomy, and I listen to them, and I find the noise, and I tune it. I do this, I record them, and people listen to them. And so this particular one was listening really deeply to the heart. And I became so aware of how the heart is so connected to the lower part of the heart, to our sexuality, to our groin, to our reproductiveness, and to the throat and the mouth. These are areas of such potential pleasure. Why else would, think about it, life is designed to move away from pain and move towards pleasure. So everybody's trying to ascend to 5D and raise their vibration and have out-of-body experiences, when actually really connecting to your electric body, really getting wired in and into the pleasure potential, the bliss potential of having a body. This is the cool part of being here, is our bodies are so amazing. Most of us live outside of them or in some kind of wrong relationship with them.
That's a little modern day hedonism for you there, but she's 100% right. I love that segment because I don't take enough time for myself to fully engage in the body and feel it. I'm always trying to reach a certain point in meditation, through running, through altered states of consciousness, to experience the non-physical. And it's kind of like a mild case of escapism a little bit, just trying to reach these different levels or states of consciousness so I can experience something spectacular. But she reminds me that there is something spectacular here in our bodies. We just don't take the time to realize it. And I think we have to know ourselves a little bit more. Know thyself, that famous saying, that famous quote, I think Shakespeare. but I also think it was like the Oracle of Delphi who said that as well. Know thyself is really something that's really hard to do, because who are we? What is reality? I mean, what is it that we're here to do? I think we're here to learn. I think we're here to develop as humans, as the species, as a collective. But it is the job of the individual to know truly who they are and what they're capable of. And Eileen has been a pioneer in this field of tuning the Human Biofield and creating a modality for that in an institute. And it's so simple to me what she does, but it's so cool that she can find a lot of the information in the field that is about our history as an individual. And she can see the ailment. Oh, she knows, I mean, she can use these tuning forks to find out really physically what's wrong with us, but also what is emotionally got us attached to things. Just by going in a field around our bodies, like 6 feet out, there is a field that holds our history of the individual that we are. And she can find things through this field that has been wearing us down since our birth, essentially. And it's so fascinating to me, and the things that she can find out about us, the things that she pulls out in us to help us cope with that, to help us heal from that, so that we can be empowered, that we can be energetic and be a new person and experience a body that is loving us as much as we should love it. It's fascinating work, and I highly suggest you guys check her out. But before we get into the episode, I want to go into that segment now that I like to call Sacred Activism. And before I lose my voice, I want to get this out there. Sacred activism is a term coined by the poet and mystic Andrew Harvey. Sacred activism is that thing that breaks your heart. And for me, it is children suffering, families suffering. And I can't stand to see it. So I want to be a service to that and bring awareness about programs or nonprofits that are doing great works, so that either you can donate to that program or nonprofit, or you can find out more about it if you need that. So today's program / nonprofit is called Cool Kids Campaign, located here in Baltimore. Founded in 2006, the Cool Kids Campaign has carried out its mission to directly impact children fighting cancer through academic, social, and emotional programs. Man, that just hurts me right there. So they have these clubhouses around and they help kids by providing individual custom care packages to newly diagnosed children with cancer across the country. Each care package also contains our book, You Are Not Alone, which is compiled of stories, testimonials written by other cool kid families. They also work to empower other cool kids with a trademark slogan, Cancer Fears Me, products such as t-shirts, chemo hats, bags, and temporary tattoos. Each quarter they publish the Cool Kids Connection newsletter, which is mailed to over 30 hospitals in the United States treating pediatric oncology patients. The Connection contains stories and activities for and by the cool kids and their community. At their clubhouses, they provide a number of social and emotional activities such as monthly movie nights, seasonal parties, and parent support groups. Man, this is just such good stuff, and I really hope that you guys take the time to find out more about this program, about this campaign, the Cool Kids Campaign. You can donate or sign up for events when they start holding more of those through this pandemic. You can go to coolkidscampaign.org and find out more about their story there and what they're about, and get involved if you want. But yeah, today is going to be a great day. Today is going to be a great episode, and I want to hear about your story. I want to hear about the things in your life that break your heart, the sacred activism that you're contributing to. I want to hear about that. So go to treydowns.com, leave me a message, let me know what you guys are up to. And you can follow me on Instagram at tdowns80. Leave me a message over there as well. So without further ado, here is my electric episode with the great and powerful Eileen Day McKusick. All right, go ahead.
Hi, this is Eileen McKusick, and this is Your Superior Self.
Eileen, thank you so much for taking the time to join. This is truly fantastic that you're here tonight because, like we were talking about earlier, I do have some, I don't know, I'm going to call it weaknesses, but I definitely have some things going on in my body. And what you do is, I guess your first book was Tuning the Human Biofield. So I'm pretty excited to have you on the show because I definitely need some advice. So I'm very interested about your story, because it's you use I don't even want to try to explain it because I don't like use tuning forks around the body, the energy field, right, to help people get, I guess, release energy that's been stuck there for quite a long time. Is that right?
Yeah, I help to get our human instruments in tune, that we are all electrical instruments and we're all pretty out of tune in different ways because we've taken a lot of hits. Like if anybody's a musician, you know that you pick up an instrument, hasn't been played, it's been bashed around and brought to different climates and stuff, that you need to tune it before you play it. Otherwise it's going to make noise. And
I
we know that
definitely
about
make some
our
weird
cars.
noises. I can tell you that much. My
Yeah.
body.
And we know that our cars, get out of tune, and our human bodies are no different. But we've been taught to think of ourselves chemically and mechanically, but we're also like electric and acoustic. And that's the level that I work on, getting that part of the body into tune so it's making music and not making noise. And then the physical body just follows.
That's awesome. That's very interesting. But before you got into this, like, what were you doing though? Like, you were doing different things outside of this, right?
Well, suffering mostly.
Suffering. Who isn't suffering? I mean, geez.
Yeah.
How did you find this stuff? I think it was in the book. Your son came up to you and started talking about plasma, and that set off like a, kind of a signal to you or something like that.
Yeah, that was a turning point because there was a lot of suffering up to that point. And suffering with, all the stuff that everybody suffers with. I was fat, I was broke, I was in debt, I was sick, I had a short fuse, I was miserable, but I'd actually spent decades trying to not be that, reading all kinds of self-help books and going to all kinds of different therapies and like trying to get unstuck from all that, but just kind of failing. And, beating myself up because I spent so much time and money and I was still like broke and fat and miserable. And then there was like this aha kind of turning point. So at the time, this is 2010, I'd been using tuning forks for 15 years and just bouncing sound off people and listening to the sound that comes back, kind of like a bat or a dolphin, it's echolocating on people with just single tones. And I discovered that there was this whole sort of tonal landscape sort of hidden in plain view in the atmospheres in the fields around people's bodies. And after many hours of observation, I discovered that there was like this whole pattern, that there was this whole anatomy and physiology and language of waveform that the body emanated that intersected with the overtones and undertones of the pure acoustic tone of a tuning fork. And there was a whole language there. And so over the years, I've decoded the language and mapped the terrain, discovered this whole anatomy and physiology of the human biofield, of the human electrical system that is both the electric current that runs through us and the magnetic field that surrounds us. And that's the element, that's the system that determines whether we're alive or dead, is our electrical system, right? If we have a heart attack and our heart stops and electric juice stops pumping through our bodies, you jumpstart it with the same electricity that comes out of the wall.
Yeah. No. You did a lot of research though. You started learning about quantum physics. Is that right? Like you started going in that, I don't know. Maybe I'm reading it. Maybe I'm getting my books mixed
Well,
up.
it was in the very beginning. I think I read Deepak Chopra's book, Quantum something or other. I can't think of it right now. Quantum healing. And that book introduced me to the idea of, the early quantum scientists in the early 1900s, Planck and all of those guys, basically figured out that it's all vibration, that there is no matter, that there is no stuff, and that it's absolutely impacted by the observer. Like that was the essence of the birth of quantum physics, with this like, oh my God, it's all vibes and we can affect it with our minds. Like, and so that it was that kind of the essence of that made me realize like, wow, everything really is vibration. The illusion of matter is an artifact of our own limitations of our nervous system that slowed things down. But really everything is light and woven light and just space. Really, it's all waves in space, that it seems like it's something other than it really is. And so then I was like, oh, that means that the human body is basically waves in space. So if I'm just vibration, then treating vibration with vibration is really direct, is really efficient, and just gets right into the essence of what we really are. And that's what attracted me to it in the first place, was just logic, really.
Well, how did you get in the practice of like healing people with their bodies, right? Like you had this epiphany about us being vibrations. Like, how did you get into that healing modality?
Well, at the time, I started a restaurant when I was 20. And the restaurant went from having 16 seats when we first started. And it was just my two older brothers and me and my mom. And within 4 years, we had like 150 seats. We tripled the size of the dining room, doubled the size of the kitchen. I've been working like 100-hour weeks on my feet. We had like 32 employees. Like this little restaurant just went and it blew up. And I worked so much, and I lived on sugar and coffee, and my back got ruined and my adrenals got wrecked, and I had TMJ like shooting up through my head, and I hated people, and like I was a wreck. It like practically killed me. And all the while that I had been growing this restaurant surrounded by sugar, and I was a sugar addict. So it's like an alcoholic owning a bar, it was bad. It was so torturous. I had been reading books about health and human potential, about science and spirituality. Like, first and foremost, I'm really a researcher, and I'm really like, I can absorb a lot of information. I read very quickly. I read a lot of different things. So I take in information from a lot of different sources, and then I'm pretty good at like synthesizing them and like making them simple for people, which is, what I kind of do in both books, is take this a lot of like big ideas, but figure out how to make them digestible. And so I've been doing that, and I really realized that I had an interest in especially natural health and wellness. And I didn't really want to be in the restaurant business anymore, but I didn't want to go to school for like 12 years. Like, I never went to college. So I was like, oh, if I go be a naturopath, like I go for like, I don't know how many years, and I really don't want to do that. So I left the restaurant and I went to massage therapy school. And in order to like heal my own back and my own issues and stuff like that, and I started doing yoga, and I started eating well, and I started really taking good care of myself. Then I had to go back to the restaurant because my mom got a brain tumor and died. And so I kind of had to go back and fill my mom's shoes. But I did this part-time massage practice on the side. And that's where I was started reading books about vibrational medicine. And then I found a set of tuning forks, and I started having people that I was comfortable with. I'm like, will you be guinea pigs? Use these tuning forks on you? And then I just started playing with them. And then they were so intriguing and so effective that I never stopped. It's been 25 years now that I've been, doing it.
25 years. I guess it's a slow process, right? Like, feeling someone's energy field. Like, how did you, like, so you hit the tuning fork, you listen to the sound, and then when you get in certain areas, it just makes a different sound, that areas that need attention.
Yeah, basically. I mean, if you think about it, like everything in the body is in motion, and everything in motion makes waves, and waves propagate. So you can get an EEG, right? And they hook up these electrodes to your skull, and they can read the frequency of your brain waves, right? So those waves have come out of your brain, they've come through your skull, and they don't just stop at your skull, like they keep going. Our brain waves emanate out into the electromagnetic environment around us and interact with the waves that are
Hmm.
going on out there. Same with our heart, actually, it has much bigger amplitude, right? I mean, have you ever had your heart beat so hard that you think the people near you can hear it or, feel it?
Well, don't you get like this heart variance or heart, they call it coherence, I guess it is, where you like get into your heart's chakra and it starts, you feel that vibration and that, that frequency. I'm assuming that projects out, right? Waves of energy, correct? I mean, I
Yeah,
guess.
absolutely. Because our heart is like the sort of download circuit of our electric body, right? If your heart is beating, there is electric juice pumping through you. You are alive. When your heart stops, and then the life,
Hmm.
the heart is pumping, really our breath is what the heart is pumping more than anything. Because our heart, so breath, this is really interesting. Like one of the things that I sort of discovered on this journey is how we've been taught to think chemically and mechanically
Yeah.
about life and not electrically. And so when I discovered plasma in 2010, circling back to that, my son came to the dinner table. I had helped a friend move, and she had, was going through books, and she had a bunch of books on science. And she's like, "Here, give these to Quinn. I know he likes science. It's Quinn's 12th birthday." And so I gave Quinn a bunch of books on science, and he was reading them. So he comes to the dinner table and he says, "Did you know there was a fourth state of matter called plasma?" I was like, solid, liquid, gas. No, like I missed a whole state of matter. How did that happen? And then I discovered that it comprised like 99.999 whatever percentage of the universe. And I was like, what? How did I not learn about this and
Hmm.
never learned about it? And so I started to learn about plasma. That was back in 2010. The internet was so wonderful back then. And I spent 4 months reading everything I could. In fact, I turned it into an independent study in my master's degree program, and create a slideshow. Learned all about
Yeah.
plasma. And so what that did was it introduced me to the fact that, like, wow, like the solar wind isn't some hot gas blowing at us. It's like electrically charged. And when it's really charged and it hits our upper atmosphere, it creates northern lights. Like that's plasma going from dark current mode to glow mode, like a neon light. Like our whole environment is electrical. I found all these articles like soil bacteria are electric, like everything is electric and alive, including our own bodies.
Yeah.
And we've just been taught to look in this chemical mechanical lens. And so that's where it is, like what you put in your mouth or the surgery that you get or whatever, and missing this whole other element and dimension of ourselves and our reality. And it's the thing that's different about it is it's connected because it's all one light. The same light that powers me and you powers the sun and the stars and lightning bugs. And it's all like one connected light. And it's biological, it's not spiritual.
Sure. No, I love all that. I think I'm learning more about I guess like, I don't know, I've been learning a little bit about the senses and how, what parts of the brain fire off. But, I'm reading this book, The Holographic Universe,
Mhm.
and which could be a hologram. But
Yeah.
the senses, right? Like, are we really feeling the things that we feel? Like this book, your book that I'm reading or holding in my hand, Electric Body, Electric Health. Is that really the senses, my fingertips, or is it just the part of the brain that is firing right now because of the electricity that's going on, right? Like, um, it's just fascinating to me. When you have a thought, electricity is fired off, and then is it when you have a feeling that creates a chemical reaction? Is that how it works? Like electric thought, chemical reaction, emotion, and then it creates a field. Is that how it is?
Well, I think there's some debate about on that, what you really where does it originate and come from? But I would
Sure.
say it's our electric body is responding. And and in if you think of our electric body like an instrument, and even like our heart has strings in it. And so when we have experiences in life, it's like life plucks our strings and we respond with emotions, and these waves go through us. And different emotions have different tonal and frequency expressions in the body. And this has been part of mapping the field and learning this language, is that just like music, like if you and I are listening to a sad song, I don't need to look at you and go, this is a sad song. Because you're like, duh, of course it's a sad song. Because we feel it, right? And so
Yeah.
that's the way the tuning forks are. When they're in a part of the biofield that's holding the information of a sad memory, what time when you felt that way, we hear it, we feel it, we know it, it evokes it. Like this is our primary language, is actually this vibrational language that I discovered. Like all of nature, like animals speak the same vibrational language. Like they know when you're funky, animals and even plants. Research has shown that plants sense our vibes, and my own research as well. Like I felt fear in a plant, it felt exactly like fear in an animal or fear in a human.
Yeah.
So there's this very fundamental language of vibration that the body is experiencing, emanating. We put words on it, we look at it from the outside, but really it's a vibrational pattern. And so every emotional vibrational pattern that gets generated also creates a chemistry in the body. And Candace Pert, the work of Candace Pert, she wrote a book called Molecules of Emotion, and discovered that, in the process of this wave being generated, these molecules are generated. And so with any wave, waves want to rise up, they want to crest, and then they want to fall away. And most of us have been taught that when those waves of emotion start to rise up in us, what do? We don't know what to do. So we try to push them down.
Sure.
And most people are filled with an enormous amount of unbroken emotional waves. And that really becomes an impediment in your life. And so electric health is this idea, really more than anything, of coming to understand the nature of emotions, emotional waves, and like how to surf them, how to like ride the dragon and start to master the experience of having a body that life plucks your strings. And what do you do about that? Like, how can you turn that into music, and how can you navigate a stressful environment while still staying groovy? That's how.
How do you do that, right? Like, how do you, when life is plucking your strings, do you go to this type of therapy? How do you guide yourself through life, right? Like when your energy is being under attack, or you feel like, that things could get a little stressful?
Well, one is just knowing that everything passes. It doesn't rain day after day after day after day after day. It's not cold and windy day after day after day. Like everything passes. And I think that that's a kind of a wisdom of age, where you look back on times when things seemed difficult and you were fussing, and then you see how everything worked out, and you're like, didn't really need to fuss all that. I think that was kind of a waste of energy.
This therapy is interesting though. Like, could you do a session with where you're at now and myself here?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I will tell you that the method of biofield tuning, this practice of using sound, that's using tuning fork basically like a comb to groom your body's electronics. Everything in your system that might be kind of haywire or stuck, or just vibing wrong. It's a way to like get everything smoothed out and in the right rhythm and in the right flows and patterns, so that you can optimize your experience as a human instrument. Right.
Sure.
That's what everybody wants to get into that groove, whether you're an athlete or you're a musician or whatever you want to do. Like everybody wants to optimize their functioning. Most of us are people are going about it in the way chemically, trying to eat clean, trying to take the right supplements, being mindful, doing whatever. Right. But what that whole level of participation doesn't take into account is your emotions and how you feel and how you monitor and manage your emotional health. It's more important than anything, and it's something we really don't talk about. We talk about mental health, but we don't really talk so much about emotional health and how important it is to feel, to experience, to talk about, to express how we feel, our emotions.
Yeah, well, it's all tied together. They want to look at that dualism, right? The mind body as two separate entities, when in actuality, it's all tied together, right? Like your emotions and your mindset, right? Like
you can't separate it. I mean, even this idea of the biofield, the term biofield was coined in 1994 by a team of National Institute for Health scientists to come up with a scientific name for what was being called the aura, or the human energy field. Sort of this weak electromagnetic field of energy and information that sort of surrounds and interpenetrates the body. I've worked with that definition, but I'm also a practitioner with 25 years of hands-on and using sound to actually manipulate the electrical system of the body. And what I've really come to see, you can't separate the electric current that runs through the body that we recognize, like, oh yeah, the heart beats and the brain thinks and everything is running on electrical juice in here, from the magnetic field that surrounds it. It's a basic law of physics that anything that has electric current has a magnetic field. And to me, that is just our electrical system in its entirety. They're two sides of the same coin. You can't parse them out from each other. And I found that everything that's going on in the body can also be located in the field, and that we can manipulate what's happening in the field, which will then affect what's happening in the body. Another law of physics, magnetic fields guide electric currents. So a vibrating tuning fork becomes like a magnet, and we can find areas of flow within the electrical body that are like completely off kilter, completely off rhythm, and hang out with them, harmonize them, stabilize them, and like balance them. And people can have a very dramatic state shift, and you can go from like a 9 or 10 in pain to like a 1 or a 0 in 20 minutes, because your electrical system is doing this. And so when you hook into the electrical system and you resonate with it, and the body, it's like the snake charmer thing, like the body absolutely responds to sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is this only with pain, or is this like emotional stuff too? Is this like just, spirituality? Can you apply this to everything, or?
Yeah, I think it works on every single level, because you can't separate out any of them when it comes right down to it. Like, emotional imbalances are the biggest cause of physical pain, in my observation. Many, many thousands of hours, people coming in pain, and me observing and listening deeply and being like, oh, it seems like you're really actually very sad. Like, yeah, your left shoulder hurts, but there's something really sad here. Oh yeah, my partner died 18 months ago and I just can't seem to shake it. And I've gotten an MRI and I've done this. There's nothing wrong with it, but it hurts so much. Meanwhile, there's this heavy cloud, because she's been energizing that particular frequency, that particular zone, the mind frame in your electromagnetic body is your mind. It's your conscious mind. It's your subconscious mind. It holds all of your memories. We even call it our soul.
Mm.
It's the primary part of us. It is what defines us. Yeah.
Well, you said coming on to the interview, I was like, telling you how busy I was, and you're like, does your right hip hurt? And I was like, did I tell you that? It's like, no, it hurts. My right side hurts. Yeah. It's pretty cool how you map that out. I mean, that's got to take a lot of time.
Yeah, it was a lot of time. It was many, many hours of just listening and observing. I lived at that time up in the mountains of Vermont, in the middle of 100 acres in the woods, and it was so quiet. And I'd even unplugged the refrigerator in the next room, and so I had this just deep silence to work in and listen really, really deeply to the ping back, and started to observe these patterns. And as this anatomy started to come into view, I was like, how can I be discovering something that nobody else has? Like,
you can pick it up and move it though, right? You can pick it up and you put it back where it's supposed to be.
I could definitely pick it up. Yeah. I mean, it was so strange. Like, I had these bizarre questions. Like, I'd be moving through the field and I'd hit something that felt like it had mass, like it had charge, like it had electromagnetic stickiness to it. And it would, it'd be moving through space with a tuning fork, and all of a sudden, douche, like I was like, whoa, I'm stuck. Like, what's going on here? But then I discovered that the tuning fork, could move it. That the tuning fork would become like a magnet, and the energy would become like iron filings, and I would be able to move it through the field. And when I would get it to the midline of the body, there would be this feeling like it was like sucked into the body, in the sense that it had like gone back into circulation. So there's this sort of discovery of like, oh, there's all this frozen energy in places where there's chaotic sound, and they're related to very specific memories. And so I started to observe like memories from that were from gestation or birth were at the outer boundary of the field. And then as I moved in, it was like kind of like dropping a needle on an album and being able to actually read the vibrational record of somebody's life. So, I got to the point where I can go through somebody's field. I can tell you all about your life. I can tell you, you wet your pants at your desk in first grade.
No, I did. That's a lie. Don't listen to them. Don't listen to her. I did not. It was kindergarten. Interesting. Very interesting. But yeah, like you said, right? So there's like a 6-foot, I guess, extension of the field, and it goes out and you can start at it. Like, what's the outer rim? Is that the most recent, or is that the youngest?
That's the youngest.
That's the youngest, and you work your way into the. Okay.
So it's like a bubble, right? And there's a boundary, just like fruit has skin, or the earth has the ionosphere, the sun has the heliosphere. The human biofield has a plasma, double layer plasma membrane of electric charge that runs bidirectionally. And that particular zone I found holds information that was generated from like conception on. And then just inside, just when you kind of come between that boundary and the rest of the field, is the experience of birth. And if somebody had a traumatic birth, or if they were stuck for a long, all of that information is there. I can feel if somebody had a traumatic birth, and I can feel if somebody had an easy birth, and then I can go on to feel what their first 3 years of life felt like. And I can reflect this. And then this is the stuff that's precognitive, that is so formative, and that we can't access in other ways. But this is a way to actually read that record and reflect it back to the organizing intelligence of the body, along with the current consciousness of the body. And the body does an amazing thing. It will take that feedback of noise, and it will harmonize it. It will tune it to bring it into a greater harmony.
So that makes me think. So can we use, like, you ever use binaural beats for anything? Like, do you ever use that type of sound to outside of tuning forks to heal the body? Can you do that?
Well, I've created binaural beats with the tuning forks that I use. So I have a set of tuning forks that creates a binaural beat of 7.83 hertz, which is the fundamental of the Schumann resonance, the Earth's resonant sort of bottom line electromagnetic frequency. So we can do that. I created a binaural beat of 111 hertz between 528 and 417, and 111 hertz is in a lot of chambers as the resonant frequency, so we can create a binaural beat that way. I also have a pair of Fibonacci forks, a pair of forks that are the 11th and 12th position of the Fibonacci sequence, 89 hertz and 144 hertz. And so when you listen to either one of those, you're actually creating the golden mean, the golden spiral, as a binaural kind of experience.
Golden spiral, what is that?
The Fibonacci, well, it's related to phi. So a lot of people know pi, 3.14, blah, 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 blah. Lesser known as phi, which is 1.618. So if you take a rectangle, like that is business card size, is like called a golden mean rectangle. It's the most visually pleasing or harmonically balanced kind of rectangle shape. But there's a lot more to it than that. But basically what this particular ratio in mathematics and nature relates to, like order, beauty, harmony, sacred geometry, the sort of underlying geometry that expresses itself in nature, and the ratios of that.
So that's, you hear that vibration, right? Those hertz. And I know with binaural beats, right, like that is supposed to, I guess, hemisync, right? I call it hemisync, synchronization of the brain hemispheres. Is that the same type of concept with that?
Yeah, it's the same concept. It's just that we're using acoustic frequencies instead of digital frequencies.
Sure.
And, for me, because I've been using acoustic instrument for 25 years, like I'm really analog and really acoustically oriented. I'm not inclined to put on headphones and like listen to digitally created sound, because it's missing overtones. And my ear has been really conditioned to listen to subtleties and overtones and undertones. And you really lose that in the way that media is currently delivered in these really compressed files. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't value in that delivery.
Sure.
I'm just kind of like, if you have any friends who like would rather listen to vinyl than CDs, like I kind of fall in that
I'd rather
category.
go to a concert than listen to a CD. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
I don't know that I don't know if that translates the same thing. I get what you're saying. Um, I guess when you're in that synchronization of the hemisphere of the two hemispheres of the brain, what are you experiencing? What is your subjective experience with that?
Well, I'm not sure, is it synchronization of hemispheres certainly I think plays a role, but also like where your brain waves are at. So a lot of people, like most people, what I find tend to bounce around in what is called uh beta,
Beta,
which
yeah, beta, alpha,
yeah,
theta, delta.
yeah, exactly. So they're sort of bouncing around in the monkey mind, in conscious thought.
Monkey mind.
Yeah, where the brain just goes. There's always like, diarrhea mouth going on in there.
Sure.
Words. And a lot of it's just like garbage words. And a lot of people have an inner critic and an inner victim, and they're doing attack and defense, and there's a lot of inner division and just noise going on, right? And so what I've found is that when you go into a state of listening, whether you're listening to music, whether you're listening to hemisphere synchronization, you've gone out of beta and into alpha. And that is just a quieter place. That's like being
Yeah.
outside listening to the birds and not really thinking.
Well, I guess I'm trying to politely ask, what have you experienced in those states, like alpha? Like, so people that listen to the show know that I'm a big Bob Monroe fan, and he would use it to achieve out of body experiences.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of Thomas Campbell, who was a student of Bob Monroe, and he uses hemisync binaural beats to try to produce these states. And it's not something, you don't listen to it once and you have them. It's like something that you produce over time. Like you got to actually put in the work. And so, like, you being a person that is very dedicated to this craft, I mean, you gotta experience some pretty gnarly stuff.
Well, all kinds. I mean, the full spectrum. Because I'm able to read people's minds. I'm able to read their vibes. And you see people walking down the
Hold on,
street,
you
or
can read people's minds.
walk into my office, and you're like, hey, you're pretty cool. And then you get in their field and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe this unspeakable trauma that you've experienced. Like most everybody, at least the kind of people who go looking for help, it's just astonishing some of the difficulties that human beings go through, and that they still show up and they smile and they function, they're polite, and everybody has a story there, right? So I've been exposed to really all kinds of like incredibly disturbing vibes, but at the same time I've also been exposed to like incredibly illuminated, angelic, elevated moments with special people in incredible expanded states, shamanic kinds of expanded realities. I've perceived all kinds of things. I used to see things like nooses around people's necks and shackles around ankles, and like a
While you were doing your therapy, like you
while
would
I
see
was
this.
doing sessions. Yeah, I used to see them, but then I decided I didn't want to see things like that. And I
So you
then,
would see things on people like that. That's nuts.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
crazy.
I would definitely see things like that. And I would be able to remove them, and people would have an experience of profound state shift
So do you
afterward.
think that's from like past lives or from their current life?
I think the more likely explanation is that it's genetic.
Genetic. That's
That
interesting.
it's some kind of perhaps genetic imprint in the DNA. But it could also be, if you think what I was saying about how your electric body is you, it's your light, you're alive, and when you die, your light goes out. Well, where does it go? Does it remain differentiated, or still holding all of these patterns? Is this our karma? And then are we resonantly attracted to some kind of situation that resonates with what we already have in our fields in order to continue the soul's journey through time? Or when a unit dies, does the light just undifferentiate and return back to the one, to pop out somewhere else? So
Hmm.
I don't really know.
I don't either. But I watch just watched a couple series on Netflix, Surviving Death, and I like to think, I'm a big fan of near death experiences and the work they're doing at University of Virginia. I like to think that we return to the one, and that or we keep coming back for just different experiences, working with karma and reliving and gaining more awareness and higher consciousness. Like I would love for that to be the case. Expanding or just working with working with the energy, really, like understanding that more, helping humanity evolve a little bit more and get out of that, I guess I don't know, that materialistic idea, right? Help science a little bit more along the way, get outside of this objective philosophy,
Right, which is really goes against like what I was saying earlier about the early quantum explorers really saw very clearly how the observer affects the observed. And so there is no objective science. Everything is viewed through the lens of our own subjectivity, and our own perception and expectation affects the outcome because we're all creators.
Yeah.
So that part of quantum physics was kind of obscured from us really knowing, and we're supposed to listen to science as some kind of objective thing, but that kind of objectivity is impossible. It
I
just
know.
is.
It is. You're exactly right. Like in psychology, it's impossible. I mean, it's not impossible, but I mean, it's like it's more about the experience of the viewer, which is very subjective. You have I guess a subtitle in here, "Hacking Bliss," which really caught my eye. Can you
Well,
talk
that
about
was
that?
kind of what I was thinking about when you asked me about your friends who have these out of body experiences. Like, I'm not interested in having out of body experiences. I'm interested in having in body experiences. I'm interested in occupying my body. And the more that, our culture really drives us out of our body, especially women. Like if we're not skinny and we don't have a flat stomach and we don't, we're like, we go into self-loathing, and most women go through, and probably men too, I can't speak for men, but there's a kind of terrible self-loathing that from spiritual, like, oh, I'm just going to be in my higher chakras, and like everything that's sort of guilt and shame and everything about our bodies are built for pleasure. I love Stuart Hameroff. He advances this idea that like life evolved in pursuit of pleasure.
Hmm.
I was doing this session, synchronizing the 4 quadrants of the heart. And with my tuning forks, I go in and I explore different parts of the anatomy, and I listen to them and I find the noise, and I tune and I do this, I record them and people listen to them. And so this particular one was listening really deeply to the heart. And I became so aware of how the heart is so connected to like the lower part of the heart, to like our sexuality, to our groin, to our reproductiveness, and to the throat and the mouth. These are areas of such potential pleasure. Like, why else would, like, think about it,
Sure.
like life is designed to like move away from pain and move towards pleasure. So everybody's trying to like ascend to 5D and raise their vibration and have out of body experiences, when like actually really connecting to your electric body, really getting wired in and into the pleasure potential, the bliss potential of having a body. Like, this is the cool part of being here, is our bodies are so amazing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
most of us live outside of them or in some kind of wrong relationship with them. So I'm like what I call a moderate hedonist. Like, I like all the naughty things. I'm like, I want to enjoy all the good stuff in life. And don't tell me that's not spiritual, because what is bliss? You can't sit in meditation enjoying your relationship with the one when your belly hurts, or you're not
Yeah.
comfortable and you're full up of emotions that you're trying to stuff so you can raise your vibe.
No, I agree with you 100%. It's a little bit of a escapism, right? Like when you try to look at it, like we're always trying to escape. I mean, we're just trying to escape the pain, right? Like we always want to be happy, blissful, we never want to feel pain. But that was me not too long ago. Like I was just like trying to get these states of bliss or states of higher consciousness, so I wouldn't feel the humanity side of myself. And and I really became lucky recently and stumbled upon Ram Dass's teachings. And he talks about freedom from not freedom from the self, but like if you're gonna be a human, why not take the curriculum, right? Like be here, but be with an open heart and learn how to he says live in hell with an open heart and be able to experience everything there is to be human. But not it's okay to feel sadness, it's okay to feel happiness, but know that it's not you, not who you truly are, and live in it and experience it and take it for what it is. But that's for you to work out, your karma to work out. And it's like a lot of people, like I was a part of that too, where I'm trying to escape all the negative stuff. And I don't know, I just think it's
that's it. I mean, and what I really figured out, and all that trying to escape that negative stuff, it just piles up in your field as inflammation and stuff that it's not like it's not being generated. It's not like you're not feeling angry or feeling sad. I mean, people are sometimes surprised to hear, like, I cry almost every day, just for a minute or two, like something sad comes to my radar. I'm like, oh my God, that's so sad. And
sure.
but I also will laugh really easily, or you know what I mean? Like we've been so programmed to be afraid of our feelings and not feel our feelings. We're constantly in this state of resistance and trying to push them away. Instead of just going, wow, yeah, life is plucking that string and I'm feeling that way. And it's going to move through me and it's going to break and it's going to pass.
Yeah.
I also kick a heavy bag at the gym in the morning. I think that it's really important that we allow our body to express all the things. Sometimes we all get angry, we all get irritable, we all get tired, we all get sad, we all get despairing. Like we feel all the feels, and it's okay to feel them. If you start judging and labeling some as good and some as bad, you're repressing this, then you're really stopping the spontaneous experience of joy, which is like the very ground state of our being, is actually one of like this illuminated joyfulness that wants to sing like a bird at sunrise. Like that's our nature. And we've all become so burdened down with noise and story and suffering and ancestral, we're just so full of static. But when you clear that static, everybody has this beautiful clear signal underneath, like everybody.
Wow, that's pretty beautiful. Yeah, I like that. Eileen, this has been amazing. How can people connect with you? How can they find your book?
Well, the book, Electric Body, Electric Health, it's basically everywhere. So you can, if you have a local bookstore you want to get it from, or you can get it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. And so that's there. My other book, my first book, Tuning the Human Biofield, you can also find that. And they're on Audible. So I narrated the book. So if you prefer to listen to books, you can get it at Audible and also on Kindle.
Listen to her lovely voice. That'd be exciting. I would love to do that. I love this book. I read it, made some notes in it. I'm going to use it for my day, some of my areas in my life that I need to tune into a little bit more. Definitely my right side. Some great stuff in here. I highly suggest everyone go get it. Going back to circling around that one question though, right? So you practice in Vermont. You have, I guess your clientele are up there, but you also said that you can do this. Like, how do you do it if I'm here and you're there? Like you're in Vermont, I'm in Baltimore. How does that work?
Well, first of all, people asked me for years if I could do this at a distance. And I was like, no. I thought it was the stupidest question. I was like, I'm using sound waves on the body. There's no way that this would work at a distance. Like it just seemed so dumb, and I was so arrogant about it. And then I actually got to know this fellow by the name of Dr. Carl Merritt, who wrote the preface to the foreword to Tuning the Human Biofield. He's an MD who has a practice in California, and he persuaded me to try a distance session on him. And one of my favorite things, I was saying, like, let's try this and see what happens. Like, I'm a scientist. I love experiments. And even though I thought it was preposterous. I was like down for the experiment. So what I did was I pretended that he was on my treatment table. I approached an empty treatment table as if he was there. And at this point, this was back in 2011, I think, maybe 2012. I could go through somebody's field and I could tell them their whole life story. I could tell them personality of their mom, like just everything, inflammation here. This organ isn't right, arthritis in this joint, because it's all a tonal language, right? Remember, everything in the body is making waves, and these waves have a particular sound that they make. And I just kind of decoded it all. It's kind of like teaching myself a kind of braille, almost like sonic braille. So what I did was, we did not have an open line of communication. I just intended, and I, much to my amazement, the same field of information, the pattern and field, showed up. And I went through it and I read it just as if there was somebody on the table, and I took notes. And then when I was all done, I got on the phone with him and I went through my notes. And I'm like, you were this age and that and this and that and this organ, and da 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 da. And he's like, that's all exactly right. And he said, and he did like a resting blood sugar or something before and after, but he said he also felt me working on him and he felt very different afterwards. And I was like, wow, get out of town. Like, oh my God, like I've been so like dismissive of this and all. And here's the thing, I went into it not even believing that I could do it, and astonished myself that I could, right? And so then I went on to teach other people how to do it. And at this point, we've trained thousands of people how to do this. And they all have the same experience that I did. They approach the table, they find the information, they share the information, and they're correct. They're able to read and modulate the person's field from a distance. I don't even need a picture of somebody. All I need to know is their name and how old they are. And I can scan, and it's like pulling a book off a library shelf and reading it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Trey Downs, 37 years old. Just let me know what you find there. This has been awesome. I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. Last question, kind of important. What do you want your legacy to be?
Oh, Trey, I don't think anybody's ever asked me that. It's an interesting question. Well, honestly, I feel like, knock on wood, if I were to die tomorrow, I feel like I kind of already have done it. I mean, I've definitely discovered this whole new territory that was hidden in plain view, and developed this sort of elegant backdoor hack into our minds to help us to be, it's like shortcuts help, a lot, and really opens up a whole new frontier of exploration. And, I'm doing peer-reviewed, grant-funded, peer-reviewed science in the biofield, kind of taking this realm that has been, oh, what's the energy in energy medicine? Oh, that's all woo, I mean, like, yeah. Hey, it's electricity. Like, what's everybody fussing about? Like, electric current, magnetic field. Yeah. That's the energy in energy medicine. And let's stop dismissing it as alternative and really seek to understand it and work with it and just keep people healthy. People ask me, do you work with people with cancer? Do you work with people who are really ill? I'm like, no, I really don't. I want to work with healthy people, people in mild to moderate stuff, and help you to get well and help you to stay well by understanding how important your electrical system is and just taking care of that. And that, that makes life and health just a lot easier and even more fun. Because getting electrically healthy is all the fun things, like singing and dancing and having sex, and it's
yep,
good
there you
stuff.
Go. That is awesome, Eileen. Thank you so much for joining the show. This has been fascinating. Thank you so much. It's truly an honor to have you here.
Thanks, Trey. It's been a pleasure.